I'm Cari Kamp, and I am here with my co-founder of Thrive at Your Community, Hal Cranmer, the one and only. And today we have the pleasure of really talking to an expert in travel all over the world. Her name is Jan Acorn. She is the owner of Gateway Destinations. As you look at the pictures behind me, Jan has done some amazing trips for me all over the world with my husband and I, as well as retreats, health retreats for people. And we wanted Jan to come on to talk about really when it comes to aging and travel. She has been in this industry for 19 years, and specifically things that she can share with us regarding as we're getting older, how can we travel well? So thank you, Jan, for joining us.
My pleasure.
So the first question I had for you is, knowing that you've had this agency for 19 years, how has your travel planning service changed with your senior travelers?
Well, first thing that comes to mind is I need to make sure I allow more time for them transiting airports. It's amazing how airlines have their legal minimum connection times, usually 45 minutes. And that's not enough time for seniors and for most people, honestly. If there's a slight delay in the first leg or the first segment, first flight, then it's a ripple effect. So allowing enough connection time, but not too much where they get too tired waiting at an airport. So that's something I spend a lot of time on. Another thing is when they arrive in a destination is I really encourage having a private transfer arranged. Nothing is better than having someone greet you with your name on a sign and they whisk you away to your first hotel. It's just comforting. You're tired after traveling for so long, so it really is worth the extra money. Um, Also, a slower pace, making sure that, there's some free time in the itinerary, that they don't get too exhausted. I think that's really key. Ensuring that all of their accommodations are either at ground level or there's an elevator. Maybe they want to stay in a villa in the countryside, but if all of the bedrooms are upstairs and there's no elevator, that might present an issue. So having those discussions and, planning accordingly, I think is real important. And also taking the time to review the itinerary with them in detail before they leave. Going over all the travel documents, the itinerary itself, and the confirmations that go along with it, so they feel confident.
Mm-hmm. And you work with people all over the country, all over the world. I know that. So it doesn't have to be just in the Phoenix area. So one of the other things that I wanted to talk to you about is people kind of assume as you get older that you're not able to travel, like you aren't able to travel. And I know you shared with me different people at different ages, specifically somebody in his 90s that's going to be taking an amazing trip to Italy and what that looks like. So how you customize things, but what are your thoughts about, hey, we need to shrink our travel because we're getting older?
Well, I don't know if I would encourage people to shrink their travel because they're getting older. They can just do it differently. And I still encourage people to get out there if they have that desire. They just need to go about it differently. So a lot of my seniors are doing more cruising where that wasn't the top of their list before because it's easier. They have a traveling hotel with them throughout the time and someone to go talk to, a staff member if they have questions. Or maybe it's an escorted tour where there's a dedicated tour leader. Um, a, Again, a go-to person that travels with them the entire time and helps them if something comes up. I've had clients get sick, have to be hospitalized along the way. And having someone like that there,
Mm-hmm.
they'll handle it for them. They will facilitate it.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, travel insurance gives them the peace of mind. And then they have a 24/7 number they can contact.
Mm-hmm. No, those are
Does
good.
that travel insurance cover medical kind of things too, or is it just
Yeah,
sort of
it
flights and hotels? Okay.
It provides for emergency medical coverage. So if they have to go see a doctor or go in the hospital, it covers that. Also emergency medical evacuation. So if they have to be transported either by air or ground to an appropriate place for care, then that's included. The other two major components of travel insurance are trip cost cancellation. So if they had, let's say, they fell and broke their leg before they even left home and couldn't travel. That's a covered medical reason, and they'd be reimbursed for the cost of their trip. The cruise line won't reimburse you or refund, so they rely on their travel insurance. Or let's say they're already traveling, they go to the hospital, decide they need to go home halfway through the trip. That's trip cost interruption, and they could be reimbursed for the unused portion of their trip costs. So there are really four key components to a good travel insurance plan, and it just provides peace of mind for people, even for younger people, because they travel
Mhm.
is not inexpensive.
Mhm.
Um,
No.
and so it's you're making a sizable investment, and it helps protect that investment.
And young people can get sick too, eat
Right.
something weird or any
Oh,
like that.
I could go tell you a number of stories, but
Yeah, I bet.
and people don't realize they're not paying attention to their surroundings when they're traveling because they're looking at these wonderful new sights. I had a lady step off a curb wrong and broke both shoulders. And she had to be bound to fly home.
Oh,
So,
wow.
it's just, and she wasn't that old, but
Hmm.
things happen and
They do. They can happen in your home. It
right.
doesn't have to be traveling.
Yes, to be traveling as well. And that was one of the things is when I was going to Thailand, Jan's like, get the travel insurance. You're going a long ways away. Well, our trip was delayed. And so it paid for all the what I missed on the first day of what I would have been doing. And so it covered the cost of my insurance. Yes, I would have liked that day, but it was something that really does work. So you want to work with somebody like Jan who can pick the right insurance for you when you're traveling and coverage so you do have it based on what you need. And I think that's one of the keys for that as well is just not checking the box and then not having the right coverage. And it's just one of those things. I was reading the other day, as I mean, most people have more insurance on their phone than they do on anything else, right? So take care of your trip and have coverage for your health, for expenses, for if your trip is delayed. So that's a really good thing. So one of the other things.
Those are even minor benefits, but when that happens, boy, it's really a nice feature. So you miss a flight connection through no fault of your own. There's coverage for things like that. So,
So give us a couple ideas of, and you shine in many different areas, but really where you felt like you've done some really great trips for older individuals, families, things like that, where you are so different. And I know that you are because I've seen your work throughout the years.
well, it's interesting. My stepmother was taking her two sisters and a niece on a cruise to Hawaii last summer. And she has mobility issues with severe edema in her legs, so she can't walk very far. And so I arranged for a scooter service, a motorized scooter, which he had used once before and felt comfortable using it. So they flew to Honolulu for several days before they got on the ship. She wanted to go to Pearl Harbor and do the circle tour and do lots of things. So it was a godsend. She used a wheelchair on land there, and then she used a scooter on the ship because those ships are large. She was on a Norwegian ship, and she wouldn't have been able to walk to dinner by herself. So she had a scooter on board and she could just scoot herself to the
That's
restaurant.
wonderful.
And so this company arranges delivery at the hotel, delivery at the ship. They pick it up after you're done. So for her and other clients like that, it's really a lifesaver. Years ago, I had a lady hire me to go to Paris for her 70th birthday. She wanted to go to actually England countryside and Paris for her 70th 70th birthday. And she had very specific things in mind she wanted to do, but she said, I can't walk more than an hour at a time. So I arranged for a wheelchair when she got to Paris. I rented it locally and I spent 8 days with her in Paris. And then we went out to the countryside and we're bouncing over cobblestones. And she realized that once she got in that wheelchair, she really didn't want to get out of it. It was far easier to have me push her than to walk at all. So she would not have been able to do that trip without that kind of aid. And it was so important for her. She wanted to go to the cabaret dinner one night. She said, I'll go on my own. Just arranged the driver to get me there and back. So she was fine. She could walk in and get seated. And so she did some things on her own, but for the most part, I was with her.
That's amazing. Well, and Hal had an example of a family that wanted to take one of his residents on for a birthday cruise. Do you want to share that, Hal?
Sure, he was 98, Canadian guy, and he wanted to celebrate his 98th birthday on a cruise. So we actually lent them a caregiver, and the caregiver went with him and his family on the cruise, I think for eight
Mhm.
to 10 days. And they paid for the caregiver to go along, and she took care of him while he was there. And he was wheelchair bound, and the cruise was very accommodating to him and enjoyed it. He came back. He passed away 6 months later. All of a sudden, one morning, he was in a chair and just passed away.
And
He seemed to be doing fine the
what a
next day.
wonderful gift
Yeah.
from his family.
And
Really.
it's and you could tell when he came back from the cruise, it was the highlight of his life. Like he just couldn't have been happier for the time he had left. So, it was a great sort of going away present, we called it. So,
Yeah,
being able to celebrate with your family and in some tropical location is just a real blessing
yeah, it's
and
wonderful.
definitely doable too.
Yes.
Something I was wondering about with your guy you were telling us about who is going to Italy for 2 months to learn Italian.
Hmm.
Learning something new is really important for people, especially older people who are at risk of cognitive decline. That,
Definitely.
stimulating your brain like that's really going to help. Do you see sort of educational opportunities or learning opportunities for people, even older people, to go and, you know, learn something new?
The sky's the limit, honestly. They can do an art focused tour if that's what they're interested in. And if it's a retired architect, he can do an architectural tour that really hones in on his area or her area of interest. So there's really no end to it, what's available. I reach out to my local partners in Italy. For this gentleman, he wanted to be able to prepare some meals at home, so he's going to be in an apartment. Well, Italy has a requirement. You can't rent a property for more than 28 days. So he's actually staying in two different apartments, but in two different areas of the same city, which he actually appreciated. And he said it'll give me a chance to learn those two neighborhoods. But his main purpose is to go there and study Italian. And he's now 91. I sent him to France last year for his 90th birthday with his adult children. And one daughter planned the trip with me, but she said, my dad's very independent. He won't want a wheelchair, all of this. He's very mobile, cognitively very strong. And he still is a year later. So it's wonderful. And I
Fantastic.
think things like this help him stay that way.
Hmm.
Oh, I have no doubt. And people shouldn't want to just go on a cruise to drink drinks at the bar or go
Right.
on a vacation to do that. They should enjoy, if nothing else, learn about the culture of
Yeah.
where they're going.
Right, but I made sure that, his flights didn't have too many stops, and I've actually recommended that he spend the night in London at the airport. There's a hotel connected to one of the terminals, and the schedule wasn't great going into Pisa from San Diego. So I said, you're much better off just spending the night. It's a 7-minute walk from your terminal to the hotel.
Mhm.
Have a good rest that evening, and then you go back to the terminal in the morning, catch your flight to Pisa. So that's what he's doing. And then I'll have a driver meeting when he arrives, takes him to his first apartment.
Wonderful.
And then he
That is
wants to be on his own.
Well, and I think that's one of the things. I mean, Jan's an award-winning travel advisor. She has won multiple awards. She has traveled all over the world. So she isn't just doing it out of book knowledge. I mean, she goes and she really dives into the areas that she is having people go to. I think one of the other things though is you don't recognize the benefits of hiring Jan until you're in your trip. When Brian and I went to South Africa, we started in Zimbabwe, then we ended up in, different camps in South Africa. And I mean, there was a driver waiting for us. There was never, I mean, it was so different because there was no chaos because somebody was always there getting us to the next place. And it was seamless. And I think I don't care how old you are, but if there are families watching as well, Jan can actually plan things where everybody's meeting at the same time and it's just seamless, and whatever they want to do, whether it's cooking demos in Italy and all sorts of things. So really, as she says, the sky's the limit. We went to Jan and said, this is what we'd like to do. Help us build it. And so it was amazing. And so that's where I'm really encouraging the families and anybody who's listening to this within our community that really your travel experience will be like no other, and you really will never go back just because you have so much more time with your family or your loved one or what you want to do, because you're not trying to find the next taxi or where to go. And you definitely have plenty of time to do things on your own, but if you don't want to do anything on your own and you want it scheduled, you can do that too. And I think that's one of the questions, is you really make it tailored for that person. It is never a cookie cutter. None of your trips are ever the same. And I think that's where I want our community to know, that is that what you want to do and how you want to do it, and with help, whether it's a scooter, which is a brilliant idea, or whatever it may be, to make it work. So it's like the resident that Hal had, that at 98, he was enjoying it on a cruise ship instead of, just sitting in his recliner, right?
Mhm.
So
Definitely. I was just going to say it's a key in my mind to always have some free time built into an itinerary. You don't want it so structured that, number one, you're exhausted, but it's good to just be spontaneous sometimes. You have an afternoon free and you might be sitting having coffee in a Parisian cafe or wherever you might be. And some of the best discoveries on a trip are just discoveries. They weren't really anticipated. You might meet someone who invites you over to their home for dinner. I've had that before in some countries. So it's important that you have some structure so you don't waste time, as you mentioned, Cari. But again, have enough free time that you can weave that throughout the itinerary.
sounds great. And I recognize that sometimes I go to somewhere in an area and I don't have time to go back, and I wish I would have been able to have that time. So Jan, can people reach you directly on your website, or what's the best way for them to reach you?
They can. It's gateway-destinations.com. There's a way there to, my phone number, of course, is on there, but also they can fill out an inquiry form and submit that as well. And then I'll schedule a call with them. If we can't meet in person, if they're not local or they don't have the time, I always want to do at least a phone call, if not a Zoom call. I'll have a lot of questions to see what their goals are for that trip, what their interests are, how they've traveled in the past, what level of hotels they're looking for. It's really a long list of questions, and so that I am making the most appropriate recommendation for them. Because again, every trip is different. Every client really is a little different.
Yeah.
So
Well, and I appreciate that. You're taking care of my stepson and daughter-in-law.
they're so excited, it's
They are.
first
And you know
trip.
what? I didn't even hesitate because I know that you will get them to the right places for them to enjoy it, because they aren't international travelers. So to be able to go and do that and be able to know that they're going to have a great trip, and even if they have a little hiccup, it's going to be taken care of. So it's really, for me, feeling comfortable with family members traveling when they aren't traveling with us, but when it comes to exploring the world. So that's what we want everyone to do at any age. So whether it's somebody listening that's like us, we're independent at home, or somebody who's taking care of a loved one, you can still go and let Jan help you. And I think that's the whole key is you can still travel. It may be a little bit different, but go out and explore and really enjoy each day that we have. So
one thing a lot of travelers don't think about is that a travel advisor such as myself, I have your back if something does go wrong on the trip. The lady that stepped off the curb, she called me right away from the hospital, and I helped guide her through what she needed to do to get herself back home and her fellow travelers, because one of them, they thought it was important to stay with her. The other one was already scheduled on her flight to go home. So coordinating those types of things. I don't want my travelers to feel like they're stranded. And also, I provide an electronic version of everything on their phone. It's a travel app, and they have the ability to email me through that app as long as they're on Wi-Fi somewhere. So I think it's that added peace of mind that they're in touch with me if they need to. Also, other family members. For example, let's say this 91-year-old going to Italy. I'm going to recommend that we put his daughter on there as a traveler, if you
The
will.
contact.
Right. So he can easily reach out to her. And
Who'll reach out to you then,
yeah,
probably.
yeah,
One thing about trips too, for elderly people, it's a great goal to set a trip and hey, we need to make sure we're in the best health we can be in order to
definitely.
maximize our enjoyment on this trip. I think a lot of elderly people and what I see in my business is, they think, well, I'm just sitting around waiting to die. If we set a trip and coordinate a trip and say, okay, it's February, beginning of February, let's go somewhere in August, that gives you 6 months to, hey, we got to eat right. We got to start exercising. We got to make sure we're in good shape for this trip that we can really enjoy it. And so it gives them something to look forward to. So, like you
Definitely.
said, don't stop traveling just because you think you reached a certain age and that's out of your purview anymore. Almost encourage maybe more traveling because it'll help you get inspired to get ready for that trip.
Those endorphins kick in, and so it's exciting to plan a trip. And
Mhm.
so it's that, little carrot down the road. And Carrie, you come into play. Well, what can I do to make sure I'm in the best health I can be when I do go on that trip? And so just, it's that positive outlook, I guess, and it's going to encourage them along the way and want to do better, I think, because they have a goal. They have something to look forward to.
yeah.
Well, I mean, I can't tell you what I did the past 4 weeks at home, in any kind of detail. But I can tell you, I went to Italy with my family a year and a half ago, and I could probably tell you every day what I did for that
There you
week.
go.
It makes such a difference in creating such wonderful memories
Sure.
for people.
That's
Yeah.
really a good point. Well, Hal, maybe in the future we should put together a health retreat with Jan somewhere around the world.
It would be wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So be a
Yeah.
great
I
goal as
love
well.
it.
So, but that's a
Mhm.
really good point. Well, Jan, thank you so much for taking time with us. We really appreciate all your knowledge, but also you've just been a trusted friend and travel advisor for me, and I appreciate you very much. So for all of our members and for everybody in the community, please reach out to Jan if you have upcoming travel or if you want to travel and start building a trip. She's amazing, and all of her information will be below on this video as well. So have a great day.
It's really nice meeting you, Jan.
Thank you. Nice to meet you, Hal. Bye, Carrie.
All right.
Thanks.
Take care.